working at 8 in a few hours. I have to get up again. It's okay.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I really value all of y'all's time. Welcome everyone to the Fine Arts Career Mixer. Thank you students for showing up today and coming to hear from our professionals. I've just dropped our URL link in there again. So please make sure you sign in, especially if you're with UT Austin, so we can get your attendance. So we'll go ahead and start with just some introductions. And I'll kind of call on y'all one by one. So if y'all can go around, oh, let me stop sharing the screen so we can see each other. So if y'all can go around and let us know what is your job title and where do you work? So that's 2. And then also if you can let us know what degrees do you hold, if any. So that's 2 things. And I'll go ahead and drop those questions in the chat just in case. So if we can go ahead and have Kara go first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Wright. I teach middle school theater at Benold Middle School in Georgetown. I have a degree in theater education from St. Edward's University.
Thank you so much. And Corey.
Hi, I'm Corey. I'm a ceramicist and an artist assistant at a sculpture firm in downtown Dallas. I have my BFA in ceramics and yeah, from UNT.
Ah. When
Thank
did you go to
you.
UNT?
Who else?
When did you?
Oh,
When did you graduate from UNT?
oh man, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And Nicole.
There we go. I have to tell my students that all the time. You're muted. My name's Nicole Correa. I'm the band director at Deer Park Middle School in Round Rock ISD. And I graduated with a degree in music education at UT.
Great. And Grace.
Hello, I'm Grace Preston. I'm a freelance graphic designer. I have a BFA from Washington University in St. Louis, which almost no one has heard of. And I'm actually currently getting my MFA at Texas State because I'm hoping to teach at the college level one day down the road.
Great. Muriel?
Okay, Muriel White. I am French. I'm living right now in Naples, Italy. I'm a painter. I did my BFA at the University of South Florida and my MFA at the University of North Texas. And I taught painting, right, Alicia?
Yes.
I taught painting for a while, for 10 years about UNT, and then I moved to Naples about a year and a half ago, and I teach English as a second language right now for those Napolitan kids, and I also do workshops in art, painting to the community.
Great, thank
Voilà.
you. And last, Katya?
Hi, my name is Katya, and I have a BFA in fashion design and a minor in retail merchandising from Lindenwood University down the road from Grace, actually in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And I am the lead photographer and owner of Katya Ferro Photography, my own business.
Great. Thank you all so much. I believe that was everyone, right? All righty. Thank you all so much for your introduction. So we're going to go ahead and move in and ask some pre-prepared panelist questions. Panelists, feel free to do an open response. There's not really a need for everyone to respond, but if you feel like you have something to contribute, feel free to respond. And then at the end, we'll save the last like 10 to 15 minutes for direct questions from the students to ask the panelists. Students, if y'all have any questions at all throughout the panel, please feel free to drop that in the chat. We have Joanna Drake here, who's going to be helping us out as co-host to monitor the chat. Or you can save your questions till the very end and you can ask the panelists yourself. All right. So first off, what is the most fulfilling part of your jobs? Thanks, Kara.
You're welcome. Also, I hate awkward silence, so I might raise my hand a lot. I absolutely love working with students and creating art together, and being a place where people feel comfortable expressing themselves. And like the most fulfilling part is watching the journey of a student through my program. So I get to teach them for 3 years. So seeing them in 6th grade as maybe shy and reserved, and by the end of their 8th grade year, they're like more confident and self-possessed, and it's really amazing to watch and be a part of.
Thank you.
I would like to say that for my in my case, it's actually just capturing moments for people so they can relive them later, and to keep those memories alive from generation to generation. And that's just for weddings. I also do portraiture, and so I like to photograph women, and that is a very it's a cause very close to my heart. It is a way to empower women and make them feel beautiful, and that's a very fulfilling thing for sure.
Thank you.
I think most fulfilling thing for me is getting to see the start to finish process. So I literally turn dirt into things that you can drink out of. So it's very satisfying to open up the kiln and just see a successful piece, whether it's a big one, small one, and just especially commission work, when you pull something out and it just blows somebody's mind. It's a very, very good feeling.
I just want to say, I'm pretty sure all of these professionals probably have social media pages. So we will be posting that at the end if they're comfortable. But Corey, I love watching her ceramic videos on Instagram. It's really neat what she does.
So myself,
All right. Yeah.
as a painter, so when I was at UNT, I taught painting and drawing, and I really loved teaching, and especially seeing, I was teaching the various levels of painting, and to see the students growing into becoming an artist. And that was really fulfilling for me. And as a painter, I just love the fact that I get to create without having anyone telling me, to giving me any boundaries. So I'm really, especially when I have to do solo shows, I just need to continue the process, the language that I've created, and to keep developing. And that's a really, I mean, to be able to create is just luxury, really. And to be able to exhibit the work afterwards. Mm-hmm. That's the fulfilling part.
Yeah, you were an amazing professor, so
well, thank
really
you.
Glad.
Yeah. I was happy
here
to have you too, and thank you for having me. Now for you. Yeah.
Okay, so next question. What are some fun aspects to your jobs?
Yeah.
Oh,
Kira,
go ahead, Grace.
Kira, go.
No meetings. But yeah, I think probably for all of us, like, I am so grateful I get to make a living doing what I love. Like when I was a kid, I would just tell everyone if someone would pay me to draw, that's the only thing I wanted to do. So that's definitely my, just like, I never thought working would be fun. And I think, going into a creative field is not the easiest thing in the world compared to other careers you could pursue, but I think it's worth it just to love what you do so much every day.
Thanks for sharing that, Grace. I saw lots of nods from the students.
And what I was going to say, I'm a band director, and the most fun part of my job not only is making awesome music with the kids and teaching them from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade and beyond, is the after the bell rings part. That's my favorite part, where I get to hang out with the kids, and we do, we play music, but I also get to know them, and we build really great relationships. And I think being able to be in a position to kind of share my experiences, my life experiences, and my musical experiences with my kids, and then they share their personal experiences with me, because kids have been through a lot. I mean, they have so many great ideas, so many amazing things that they can bring to the table and you can learn from. And I love that after school part. It's my favorite time of the day.
I think mine's the just like randomness of it, because like I said, I'm an artist assistant as well, and I don't know if you guys have ever worked with artists, that we can be pretty manic, and I'm a very manic person when it comes to art and everything, so it's very fun for me, because I do anything from working on the sculptures to cleaning sometimes, which is fine, to pouring rubber for molds, to pouring resin, to casting, to anything. So we have a very diverse group of things that I'm glad I took a lot of classes in university, because now I'm able to do all those things. But it's fun how different it is than what I would expect if you said you worked at a sculpture firm, right? You'd think just sculpting, but I can do everything. So it's exciting.
It's awesome.
I also have fun at my job. I really like being able to be the head of my own program means that I can do whatever I want to do. So every day I am creating art that I'm passionate about. I get to explore and learn about things that maybe I'm not an expert in and I want to get to know more. And also, I get to learn all the latest TikTok dances, because the kids don't stop. It's just like a mode. They just keep going.
Yeah, I actually get to create as well and go to a party every weekend. While I'm doing weddings, of course, creating while everything is happening. It's a very happy day for everybody. So it's a very fun job for sure.
For me, I like the time in the studio. That time to create and to develop a body of work, from the beginning to the end, and to see the direction that you don't even expect that is developing in front of your eyes. And I also like the travel part. I love to travel, and taking pictures for my paintings, and I get to enjoy that a lot. The research part is really interesting for me.
Thank y'all for those wonderful answers. I'm sure all of y'all have a lot of fun at your jobs given the field that y'all are in. So that's really great. So get ready for this one. What is the craziest thing you've experienced in your job, dealing with clients, maybe commissions, maybe starting your own business, maybe students?
Well, I'm gonna start here because I do get a lot of drama before the day because emotions are running high. Planning a wedding is a very hectic thing, and so sometimes you do get some, brides that might be a little stressed, and that's when having a laid back approach is the best way to do it, just to kind of calm down the client, let them know that everything's gonna be okay, that people are just there for food and drinks. And then definitely one of the the craziest things that happened during wedding planning and photography for weddings.
Anyone else?
I should share because there's some really crazy stories, y'all. But I'll tell you about my second day of teaching. My second day of teaching, we were doing an activity where the students were interviewing each other, just getting to know one another. And there were two children that were arm wrestling. And so I went over to their group. I'm like, hey, you got to keep your hands to yourself. Just focus on the interview questions. And then I went around the room to the other groups. And the next time I turn around, one of them had lost the arm wrestling competition that they'd continued behind my back. And the loser was so upset that he literally choke slammed his partner in the middle of class, and I had no idea what to do. I was like, oh, stop, please don't attack each other. So there are lots of stories like that of just people not knowing how to use their words, so they use their fists. Good times.
I think my most reoccurring one, and it's not really crazy per se, but it is one of those like, just kind of blows your mind how often you deal with it, is I'll quote somebody for a commission piece and they're like, oh, that's really expensive. I'm like, so was 7 years of art school. So it just, you get consistently people just not wanting to pay for quality work, but you do find those people that really appreciate it for what it is. And those are the best clients to have, because they're like, take your time, make it however you want it, just blow my mind.
Thank y'all. Okay, does anybody else want to go, or y'all are good? Okay. All right, next question. If y'all can think back, what was your first fine arts job? So related to the fine arts field.
Do I start?
Go for it, Katya.
You can tell I'm a little chatty. Well, you guys know now that I graduated with a BFA in fashion design. And so I had the opportunity to work for a company that was licensed to sell Harley-Davidson products. And I started in the art department, helping the guys set up the catalog and working with the photographer and doing sessions of our products. And that's how I started doing photography from that.
Cool.
So that was my first job in fine arts.
As a
Thank
quick
you for sharing
follow-up
that.
question, Katya,
Yeah.
how long between that Harley Davidson job and to you owning your own business?
It was probably about 3 years. It took me a little bit to get to where I needed to put together all the information and the research and take some additional classes for photography and taking pictures of friends and asking everybody and anybody to pose for me. And so it took a little bit, but definitely it was because of I was studying, I was preparing myself, I was doing more workshops and all that stuff. But I wish I would have gone to school for photography. It would have
Still
saved me some time.
3 years is amazing.
Yeah.
My first job was as a seamstress in my school's costume shop as part of the work study program. So, yeah.
My first job, actually, I'm actually from San Antonio. I grew up on the west side of San Antonio, and I used to go to this center called the Boys and Girls Club, and have them all over the place. And I actually was in college at UT, and in the summer I'd come back to San Antonio and I would work because mom wanted me to make money, and you need money to have a car and buy stuff. So I started working at the Boys and Girls Club as a game, what is it? I was at the game room, and I was like making sure the kids were just playing all the games, and I'd play the games. It was cool to get paid to do that. But I also realized there was no music enrichment for the kids in the summer. So what happened was I started a music program for the summer, and I'd meet with the kids twice a week, and we'd sing and we would learn piano and all that. And it was really cool to start that for that club.
For me, it was my first job as a teaching assistant, teaching painting, teaching drawing. Actually, my first semester was teaching drawing 1. And I mean, now if we're talking about crazy idea, this is not coming back to me. The first semester of teaching, I mean, the students can just smell it. And that was an interesting semester, Alicia. I can tell you that. Yeah, you're glad you didn't have me.
I got the more seasoned version.
Yeah.
This is really my first one, but it's probably one of the more interesting ones because my first one was this sculpture job that I have. But one of the more interesting, I taught last summer at a summer camp. I taught pottery in the woods. So 8 to 14-year-olds for 2 months with only 36 hours off a week. So it was a lot of fun getting to just make pottery in the woods, and it was kind of my tester to see how I liked teaching. And you guys are amazing at what you do because I can't do it. And but it was a lot of fun. So the summer programs are super cool to look into when you're at school.
Mm.
Yeah, my first job was also work study, which I think if you can find something like that, it's a really great opportunity because you can get extra money to kick towards your tuition or even just like pizza money. And it's a little less intimidating than a real internship because it's on campus. Mine was with like the student center at the school. So I didn't have to go anywhere, worry about commuting, and you can kind of get some real experience working with a client, even if the client is the university. So that was a good kind of first experience for me. I can also definitely relate to the first-time teachers because I'm a teaching assistant and this is my first time teaching, and the students can definitely tell that that you're fresh. So I think that gets easier with experience.
Get better, trust me.
That's good.
Don't let them arm wrestle.
Yeah, that'd be great over Zoom, actually.
Grace, that's actually an excellent segue to talking about the next set of questions, which are more geared towards what students can be doing now and more in the near future, right? So later on in their undergraduate career or maybe shortly after. So my next question is, what opportunities should students be seeking out right now as undergraduate students to start preparing for a job within the fine arts career? Should they be looking at internships? If so, where? How should they be spending their summers? What type of jobs should they be looking at? So any advice that y'all have?
I think, it depends exactly on the field. But if we're looking at visual artists, I think it's important to really get involved in a gallery setting to see how it works. With the galleries, seeing the type of people that comes into a gallery. So it shows really this is what the student wants to do. Different type of internship depending of their field. And also I'm really strong on trying to develop relationships with graduate students, and also like if they go to openings, to try to get to know people in the openings, artists, even collectors. I know it sounds intimidating at the beginning, but there's a beginning for everything. So just a little thing like that, it really helps because you start seeing the real life happening right before your eyes. And is that really what I want to do long term or not? Or is that so intimidating that I really don't know what to do? Because as a fine artist, we have to deal with that environment if we're getting into the commercial aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on Muriel here. Actually, I was gonna say networking is very important when you want to get to know your peers, the people in your community and in your artistic community. One of the things that I try to do all the time is network, going to meet people in the industry, not necessarily just photographers, but, florists, event planners. And so one of the ways that I find that it's easy to find these groups is On Facebook, you can search on Facebook for groups that are in your community, groups of photographers, for example, in my place, or event vendors, or I'm guessing in Muriel's line of field would be galleries and any of those events that happen through Facebook. Facebook is a great tool to find these things in the community, and we should be using that not only to post about what we ate, but also finding stuff like that, and networking helps you find maybe that first internship, or a way to help a professional, somebody that has been in the business for many years. It teaches you to hone your skill at selling what you are passionate about, and talking about it, and being open about what you do. So network.
I was going to basically piggyback as well, but my advice is take any opportunity that university provides for you, because I did not do that my first 3 or 4 years, and that's why it took me 7 probably. But I joined the UNT Clay Guild, and basically you pay your dues, and then they put on sales and shows, so people actually come buy your work as a student. We also got to volunteer for DPI, Dallas Pottery Invitational, where we got to meet some of the top name ceramic artists in the scene right now, and we got to help them unpack and repack and set up their work. So now I know all the people that go to these events, and I'm able to network with those people. And if I went back to DPI, I could offer to volunteer again, and they would know that I am somebody that they trust. So I can keep going to meet all these new artists. And I'm a little upset that it took me until about my 4th year to learn to jump on those opportunities and jump on all the senior shows, the solo shows, everything that you can get your hands on. Do it in school, because it's easier to learn that way, and it's way cheaper.
And I would say if you're going into teaching, first step is you're going to be doing student teaching, and you'll have a whole half year with your teacher that's going to help you out, whether it be high school, middle school, elementary. That is where you will learn a ton, and you'll learn what to do and not to do. And stay really close to that mentor teacher. When the university is like done and you've even graduated, the kids are still in grade school, they're still going. My biggest advice would you can still keep student teaching while you've graduated. They love that, actually. And so I continued band directing with my mentor teacher, and that helped me get my first gig. It's a who you know business for practically every job. So again, with the networking, it's such a big thing to do for anything. And just keeping that positive energy of, I do this, and this is what I'm going to bring to the table for you, and never saying no. Okay. Always, if somebody says, hey, can I take you for this class or whatever? Yes, I'll take it. Yes. Because people are going to want to work with you. But that helped me a lot.
I would say too, just from a theater perspective, really any job you can get in a theater, if it's a volunteer basis or you're getting paid to do it, like immerse yourself as best you can around the people, because like everyone here is saying, it's who you know that's going to help push you forward and get you those real opportunities to do it for a living, if that's what you're passionate about. So there is no job too low, even if it's just working box office or passing out flyers around town. As long as people know your face and they know that you're a hard worker, that's really going to get your foot in the door for a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think networking sounds really intimidating, but I think sort of like what Kara was saying, if you're a nice person and a hard worker, and you are just like willing to take whatever opportunity people give to you, that goes a really long way. And I've also found like just the friendships you make in school those go a long way too. Like if y'all make an effort to get to know each other and form relationships just as friends when you're working on projects together, then I found out about jobs like 5 years down the road from an old friend from college that I hadn't talked to in 5 years. So yeah, just making an effort to get to know your professors and make relationships with the other students in your program. That's kind of another form of networking that might not get you a job right away, but I think you'll be glad that you made the effort in the end.
That's how I got my sculpture job, actually, was somebody from my sculpture/ceramics class. His boss needed help with a project, so he threw me in there, and I've worked there for 3 years. So
Oh, cool.
I agree with that.
That's a great example, right? So like some of the panelists are saying it's about who you know, right? Your network. But oftentimes it's not just about who you know, it's also about who knows you, right? So in Corey's example, somebody thought of her, somebody was familiar with her work and probably her work ethic, right? So they were able to think of her on the spot and bring her in, right? Like for today's panel, I was like, oh, I know Nicole, right? From high school. Muriel was my professor, right? I know Corey from undergrad, you know? So I'm thinking of people that I know, right? I'm reaching out to my network, right? So just keep that in mind and building your relationships with your TAs, with your professors, with your peers, right? With these people who are here today, these professionals, right? And make sure you're constantly building and fostering those relationships. And it's not just one-off meeting at a gallery, right?
Yeah.
You need to keep your presence constant, right? You don't want to say, hey, I met you 3 years ago at this gallery setting. Do you remember me? Right? So make sure you're just keeping up with those things, right?
And
Does
it's
anybody
not
else?
only it's not only on the on our line of profession, is also in your community. You want to, you know, if you volunteer for things, you know, other people, maybe not necessarily in the industry you want to go into, but like Corinne was saying, somebody, you know, refer her because so and so remember her. And it's the same thing. How many jobs I have not booked because I volunteer for the rescue, and I do photos for the rescue on my free time. And so that has really helped my business and getting the word out. And definitely it's an opportunity to help your community and at the same time to get to know other people in different industries.
And on that note, this is like one of the most important things. How you behave around people is going to get around. This is a very small world. Before this Zoom started, we made connections with several people I've never met before, but your reputation precedes you. So if you're being a jerk to people, that's going to get around. If you don't show up for something that you committed to, it's going to get around, and it's going to make it even more difficult to get work. So just make sure you're being cool, man.
I do want to ask one more question of our panelists, and then we're going to open it up to the students to ask whatever questions they have, including the ones that have been shared in the chat. So what are ways that students can begin displaying or marketing? There's the word. In what ways can students begin marketing their work or their skills via websites or blogs or performing, doing exhibitions, right? So what are ways they can start doing that as undergrads?
For exhibitions, I think if there is opportunity at the university level, is already right there to try to apply to all the galleries at the universities. You can at least have a show as a student, a group show to start with, and it gets more competitive for a solo show, but it's also possible. So right there, but I know at UNT there were so many opportunities for art students. It's to grab those opportunities. I remember even when I was an undergrad in the University of South Florida, this is where I had my first show. You just have to apply. I mean, it's work, but that's a good experience right there.
Yeah, I also think that you should not wait until you graduate to start creating or having an online presence, because you know, we work all these jobs, and we are learning and having all these projects, and then we leave them behind in school in folders or whatever, and then we graduate and we have to start from scratch to create that online presence. And I feel that if you start now, you can create something that will tell people that are going to hire you when you graduate, your job. They're going to be able to see your job. They're going to be able to see that you have experience. And also from the SEO standpoint, you are creating that online presence that eventually is going to help you. The more blog posts that you do with your work, the more it's going to show on Google searches, all that, all those Instagram posts and those Facebook posts, anything that can help you show your work and create like a history of work that you've done will really help when you graduate, for sure.
If you're a visual artist, don't wait till the last minute to make a website, because that's what I did. And in my first month with my website, I made $750 just because I was like, I finally dumped all the time and money in. And then it's a very easy, accessible way for people, especially people like me who's not very great with technology. Like, that's not my strong suit. So having a one-stop shop for consumers, for people, for anyone to see who you are as an artist, that is a perfect way to get your face with the art, as opposed to just being like, well, here's my Instagram, so then they can scroll through your stuff. Having your face next to your art is very, very good at marketing.
Yeah, it's your business card. Your website is just your business card. Your Instagram is your updated work. Your Facebook is your selling place. I mean, all these things together can really set you up for success before you even graduate, if you start right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish someone had told me before I graduated that like presenting yourself is half the battle. Like, you can make the most beautiful work that anyone has ever done, but if you don't have an online presence, or if you don't present it in a professional way, then no one's going to be able to see it. So I think as hard as you work on your paintings or your visual art or whatever it is you do, like, make sure you're keeping up with sort of what people in your industry are doing to present themselves as well, and you'll be ahead of the competition.
Thank you all so much. Students, I dropped 2 recommendations in the chat, Weebly and WordPress. Those are really great, just basic foundational free options to get your websites going if you want to check that out. They can also create blogs in there. So that's also a good place to start. Oops, thank you. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for student questions. So students, feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself. Joanna, are there questions that we want to get to in the chat first?
Yeah, there are a few. A lot of y'all have talked about networking, about how to put yourself out there. When it comes to one of our questions asked, when it came to your very first fine arts job, was it just you doing the groundwork and, you know, researching and applying, or did folks recommend you? What did that process look like for you?
My first job was actually, it was a friend from school that had graduated a year before me, and she got a job at this company. And because I knew her and she knew I was graduating as a fashion designer, she reached out to me before I even graduated and asked me if I was interested in that position. And so, again, coming back to those relationships that you establish in school, it really helped me to get my first job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, my first show as a second as a graduate student was recommended by one of my professors.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's been mentioned, but it's really, really important to have a good relationships with your professors, because some of them are very, very generous and they will help you out. If you work enough, hard enough, and if you show promising talents, they'll be right there to help you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's so relevant within as a creative and as a creator. Your work goes before you, and your presence in a way, and your reputation. So from what I'm hearing from all of our presenters today, it is the relationships, it is who you know and who knows you. And if I could, I think Corey, Grace, Muriel, and Katia all said that someone noticed them, someone recommended them, someone helped them to get to where they are. So for sure, networking, I think, is a big topic, and something that I've heard quite a bit in our conversations already. The second question was, how did you develop your style or find it?
Funny,
I'm still finding my style.
That was actually
I'm sorry, Marie.
I haven't found mine, to be honest. It's been a long going. I got pretty settled in one at school, but after graduation, with clay especially, having access to kilns and certain temperatures and certain materials, it's such a hard thing to come by. So like for me, I don't have access to a gas kiln, especially a cone 10 soda kiln, which is my preferred way to fire. So I had to completely revamp and adjust my style. And so for about a year there, I just didn't feel like I was very comfortable. And I finally kind of jumped back onto something that I feel is worth working into. So it's definitely one of those things that you're going to have a lot of trial and error, and you cannot let the error make you feel bad about your learning process, because I have failed a lot, and that just makes me want to keep going. So just always try new things.
In my industry, it happens that we have these trends that kind of come and go, and so you stay true to who you are and how you like to see your style, and you stick in that lane, and there's always a client for every style. You just have to find the right client for you and your style, and they're out there. You just need to, put out that style that you like in order for people to see it. But it's style. I always say that a style is a little bit, how do you say it? It just kind of moves with the times. Like one year you feel like you have a very moody style because maybe that's the year that you are a little bit more moody. And then the next year you're a little bit more airy and light. And so it kind of changes, and it also changes with how we grow. We started very young. We graduate from college and we're young, and then with the time, the years, you start to develop a more mature style, and then of course that attracts a different kind of client. So it's from year to year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I vividly remember being so stressed about figuring out what my style would be. And I think it's not really something that you choose, really. Like a lot of the other panelists have said, it kind of just evolves with experience. And I think your style is also just who you are as a person, what experiences you've had, what messages you want to say to the world. So it's not so much something you have to find, is just like deciding what your voice is going to be. So I wouldn't worry so much about like finding one style that you're going to stick with for your whole career. I think it's something a little bit more fluid than that.
For me, it was hard work during undergrad, and then from undergrad moving to graduate school. Directions from the professors, as well as working hard. For me as a painter, it was the more you painted, the more I was painting, the more I was able to find my style, and critique was absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Whatever my peers would say, or even my professors, and that really helped me to find my voice. And I'm really grateful for that. And then you keep developing it. I mean, I believe as a foundation, once you find it once, you have a lot more confidence that you're going to keep on growing to develop your style. And someone mentioned about changing, and it's true. Whatever you're going through life, it will take you to another path. But the essence of your style, I mean, it's right there. It will always stay there, and you just keep on developing it. I mean, that's what's been for me anyway.
Thanks for sharing, everyone. I did see, before we get to more chat questions, I did see Ari, if I'm saying that right, their hand go up. So if you wanted to say your question.
Okay, yeah. I just dropped it in the chat, but I'll just read it. Muriel, can you elaborate on how traveling impacts your work?
But first of all, you know, I'm French, and then I moved to the US. So right there, I already had this impact of growing up in a different country and mentality. So, and also I traveled a lot when I was a kid. And as a European, you are so immersed by other languages and cultures that it's just normal to be with somebody different. And then you develop this taste for traveling because you can take 1 hour flight. I'm from Paris. In 1 hour, I'm in London. So that became just my lifestyle. I just kept it up. And even when I was in the US, I kept traveling. It's because my work is a lot about who I am. And art is important, but travel is also very important to me. So that I combine both. So for instance, now I'm in Naples. My work has evolved because I am bombarded by how historical the city is here. I live in a historical center, which is extremely old. I mean, I work in a 15th century building. So I am impressed again by the architecture, how old the walls are. So many history has happened within the walls. So textures is just, I've been impacted. I've always been sensitive to that anyway. And colors, sound. I spend my time recording sounds of that are, you know, from the streets or somebody talking, a child crying, whatever. It's part of my life here. So this is, it's just part of who I am. Does it answer your question?
Yes. I have another question though. Do you feel limited to paintings like as a painter, or do you feel like if you wanted to, you could venture into like 3-dimensional mediums or like even textiles or something?
My paintings is evolving into sculptural as a painter though. I'm not a free sculptor, but I use a lot of texture and I build up a lot. And now being in Naples, I work on paper because my studio is smaller. So I trying to mimic the roughness that I see when I'm doing it with paper. So yes, even though if a 2D surface, I try to build on to become more 3D. So yeah, with time it will evolve. I think it's really good to be open. Yes, but I will always be, I think, the essence of who I am. I will always be a painter. But my language will grow, will develop.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Muriel, this was also in the chat from Victoria related to your traveling. Where have you traveled and what do you gain from it? And I think maybe if I'm reading this correctly, Victoria, how does it influence your art?
Well, for me, if I'm stuck for ideas, I just travel, and your presence in a different place will impact you. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it's a time of growth because you're impacted. For example, when I was at USF, I spent 6 weeks in China with a university and to learn Chinese landscape painting. So we learn about the different techniques. First time in China, bombarded by the crowd, loved it, absolutely loved it. But until today, I can see the influence in my work about everything that I've learned over there. I always told my students when I was teaching at UNT that it is very, very important for an artist to travel and to get out of the bubble, because it's important to grow and to be confronted by something that is very different. Yes, the US is huge, but there's also the rest of the world out there. So yeah, I've been blessed. I've been to a lot of places, yes. Been to Africa, been to Europe, Asia, India. But I love to travel though. I mean, I spend my money there.
Amanda, I know you asked a question specifically for Grace about dealing with feedback, but I did kind of want to open it up a little broader. How do y'all deal with critique and feedback with how y'all perform and what y'all produce?
Yeah, I think graphic design is maybe a little bit more challenging in that area, since especially as a freelancer, you are working for a client. So it is a balance between sort of doing the work that the client wants to see and letting your own style shine through. So that's, I think, something just comes with the experience, and you also learn how to separate your own feelings from your work a little bit more the older you get. And I think something that's helped me is I've always had like a personal project going alongside any paid work I'm doing. And then I feel like I can sort of funnel my creative juices into my personal project. And if the paid work I'm doing is maybe I'm getting a lot of feedback that I'm not a fan of, I always have sort of that creative outlet no matter what's happening in my work life, if that makes sense. But it's definitely like most things, it gets easier the older you get, sort of just like taking feedback and not letting it get to you personally, and learning to implement changes in the way that you think it's going to work, even if the client is telling you something, kind of like translating that into like, okay, I think what they're getting at here is they want it to look a certain way, and kind of learning how to deal with that. I hope that helped. If that felt a little rambly.
No, that was awesome, Grace.
That's something I've learned working at the sculpture place is the client will tell you they want one thing, but really they mean the exact opposite. But they just have, if they're not generally creative people, it's hard for them to express what they want, how they want it, and when they want it, because they don't fully understand how the whole process works. So especially if you do commission work, you need to understand that you're gonna redo some of it, probably, especially the first few times when you're still trying to learn like the language between creator and client.
Yeah, totally. I think it helps when you have more experience and you realize like nothing ever goes over perfectly the first time. Just expecting to redo it and knowing that's part of the process definitely helps.
I'm glad that I'm not personally having to figure that out. I get to watch my boss do it and then help with that process, but it is a really good experience. So like if you're not a visual artist, like if you're not, I guess more on the computer, I just totally the words for it. But like for me, pottery, I can't really redo that. So I had to learn and experience that through other people, how it can be really frustrating. So I learned by watching other people deal with it to always check in with the client and get like written agreement if they agree to something. Because that way, if they're like, no, that's not what I said, you can say, yes, you did, and here's where. And that sounds kind of mean, but you have to be pretty like firm with your clients if you want to not redo something like 30 times.
Yeah. It's also,
yeah, I find it, sorry.
Oh, no.
I find it that if you are very transparent with a client or the people that you are showing your work to, that you're gonna get less of a critique because those people are looking for the type of work that you do, for sure. I mean, I'm not sure if the question was for like a critique from a teacher or a critique from a client, but definitely once you start showing your work to potential clients, you definitely want to find your niche You want to find the client that is attracted to your work, and so you don't find yourself in a situation where the client is like, no, I don't like it, but you know, they have seen your work before and they know what your style is and how you are presenting yourself. And that does help with that critique.
Thank y'all so much. I do want to respect our professionals' time and the students' time. It is 7:01. We really appreciate all the questions. We did get an additional question if anyone has ever rejected doing a commission. So I don't know if anybody wants to quickly answer that one.
I'll answer it. I get I fire clients quite a lot. Sometimes
Awesome.
it is not a match. It is not a match, and you know from the start that it's not gonna be a match, and you know that if you do take that client, it's gonna be a nightmare from start to end. And so you decide, you know, I'm going to let it go, and you find your work somewhere else where you can actually be more productive and have a better experience with your client.
I think for visual artists, I'll be quick. I've had people come to me and ask for commissions where they blatantly ask me to copy another artist, and I personally do not do that. So I will tell them straight off the bat, like, I cannot recreate that. I can make it my way. And if you don't like that, then we're not going to be able to have a connection here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yes, I definitely, if y'all need to hop off, please do. I know a few students have dropped off and dropped it in the chat as well, but we did miss a few questions. So I do want to ask about how has COVID impacted your work? And like prior to COVID happening, did your work stay at like a studio outside of your home, or was your work created in your home? And I guess, how did COVID impact your work? How does COVID impact your work now?
I'm gonna jump in here, I guess. COVID has impacted the event industry pretty hard. We are not, you know, at first we couldn't have any weddings, and so a lot of people were rescheduling, canceling, and we had to deal with those clients in a very passive way, because everybody was feeling the stress of the virus and the pandemic. And so it definitely has impacted the way that we do things. I try not to have clients indoors. Most of my sessions are outdoors, so I can keep a social distance. And definitely I had to be creative and find ways of photographing new clients and doing weddings with, you know, PPE and hand sanitizing, and not being inside of a little tiny room where everybody's yelling and screaming and you know, partying.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering that question. So it definitely is time to wrap up now. If any of our panelists feel comfortable sharing your websites or your usernames or your email, any contact information, if you can drop that in the chat. And I will actually be emailing y'all and following up for that contact information, and I will make sure to email that out to all the students that signed up for this workshop today.
Have mine, right, Alicia?
Yes, you emailed it to me.
I'll let you do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so the students who are still here, I will be emailing that to you all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone who showed up, students and panelists alike. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank y'all so much. We really appreciate it.
It's nice to meet everyone. And just a side note before you leave, Morel, I think my dad mentioned